For almost 5 years, the mainstream sports media has pushed a narrative for a relocation to a big market for NBA superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo from the only team he's ever known, the Milwaukee Bucks. Prior to signing his Supermax extension after the 2020 season, news outlets everywhere said he'd never thrive playing there, stating their desire to have him play everywhere from New York to Miami or even Golden State. While other players like Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Steph Curry, and more recently, Nikola Jokic played their entire careers, or in the case of Jokic, has played his whole career to date in one spot without constant banter about them joining up to create super teams. Giannis has had to hear over and over about how he should leave for greener pastures. Instead, he worked with the front office to facilitate the famous trade for Jrue Holiday, which resulted in the franchise's first championship in 50 years in the 2021 season. Continuing to keep the franchise on its toes, he said that he'd consider a move out of Milwaukee after the 2023 playoff elimination at the hands of the Jimmy Butler-led Heat. It was this that led to GM John Horst to land Damian Lillard, and Giannis rewarded the team by signing another extension, which ties him to Milwaukee through the 2026-27 season. However, the Bucks used pretty much all of their draft capital in the process, and now an empty cupboard, combined with the crippling injury to Damian Lillard, leaves Milwaukee without much in the way of improving the roster moving forward, with only pick swaps to their 2026, 28, and 31st round picks, or trade one of their first round picks in either 2031 or 2032. While this looks bleak, Giannis must admit that their lack of assets came as a result of things he himself has asked for, particularly in the case of the Lillard acquisition, which not only cost them draft assets, but the league's top perimeter defender and on-floor leader in Holiday. Lillard is under contract next year for $54.1 million next year and $58 million in the 2026-27 season, and he probably won't even be on the floor for much of it. Brook Lopez is now 37 years of age and a free agent. Doc Rivers appears to be past it as a coach, and has been for years, and Kyle Kuzma seemed lost in the playoffs, delivering nowhere near the production of the man he was traded for, Chris Middleton. Though Middleton himself appeared to be on the decline prior to the move, Kuzma is under contract for another 2 seasons at $21 million next season and $19 in 2026-27. The younger pieces that did contribute, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent, and Taurean Prince, are all either free agents or, in the case of Porter, have a player option that he'll certainly opt out of for a more lucrative deal. So yes, for many, it looks unlikely that Giannis would want to stay in his present situation, but here are 4 reasons why he should disregard the so-called experts and stay in Milwaukee. Number 1. Winning at home means more. Being the undisputed best player in the history of a franchise is very important to a player's all-time standing. When Giannis won the title in 2021, it solidified him as a legend in the city. Much like Dirk Nowitzki's title over the Miami Heat, people will remember it more than many players who've won multiple rings in different stops. If he wins another one, it'll show fortitude on his part and cement him as the greatest Buck ever, as no one else has won 2 rings in Milwaukee. Number 2, loyalty. Don't get me wrong, organizations always put themselves first and players have rightfully followed suit. But this franchise has always recognized Giannis' value, and the team has tried to put a proper team around him. In the past, the front office has worked with Giannis and made deals at his behest. To leave because they didn't work out, particularly in the case of the now-injured Lillard, would make Giannis look like a frontrunner. And while a player has a right to choose his own path, this one would look less like the leader he appeared to be in 2021 and more of a player, following the trend of coddled stars who run away when a situation isn't perfectly to their liking. Number 3. The team acquiring him would possibly deplete themselves. If you're leaving a franchise because of a lack of assets, you may end up putting yourself in a similar situation due to what it would take to acquire you in the first place. Then not only are you in a similar situation to what you just left, but you're also dealing with an unfamiliar front office. Not to mention the trade would presumably send him to a big market, meaning a bigger stage, and if he doesn't win a title there, his legacy could take an even bigger hit. For example, look at Kevin Durant not winning titles in Brooklyn, or even coming remotely close to competing in Phoenix despite assembling what looked like super teams on paper. Number 4. Sticking around sends a message. Giannis remaining would tell fans, kids at home, and media alike that he marches to his own beat. And as long as Milwaukee's front office continues to try to remain competitive, the two parties should continue to work in concert to show that organizations and superstar talents can work together for years, setting a proper example for future players and organizations. If he can somehow compete for a title again in Milwaukee, Giannis, who's already looked at as an all-timer, could make his own stamp in history as a person who didn't run when the going got tough, but as a player who stood 10 toes down when it mattered most.